welcome to GTC Insiders. This is where we bring you some of the people really shaping the market and the experts in our space. I'm delighted today to be joined by Hymie from NetEngage. So to get us going, Hymie, perhaps you can do an introduction and talk to us a bit about NetEngage.
Thanks, James, and thanks to you for hosting me. First of all, Hymie Marnewick, based in sunny South Africa, and I've been involved in the telco space for over 23 years. A business which we founded back in 2004 with the pioneers of secure data packet transfer across private networks for the financial sector. And then I recently joined NetEngage Pty, based in Manchester in the UK, a subsidiary of the Lumen global group companies, and who focus on global acquisitions, predominantly in the telco and media space. I think from just an overview, James, of NetEngage, so a business, although I've only joined 2 years ago, with over 30 years experience deploying global telco grade real-time solutions. And we've got a global presence focusing on tier one operators and MVNOs. NetEngage provides the turnkey solutions in terms of the delivery from design to production, combined with the full end-to-end managed service. And then the products and solutions that we deploy, starting with our online charging systems, for pre, post, and hybrid accounts, SMSC, the full SMSC stack, USSD gateway, call completion, and then lastly, the self-care, either via IVR or USSD solutions.
Fantastic. And you touched a bit upon, we'll get into the market in a moment, but obviously the heritage in Manchester, really important, but also yourself in South Africa. I know you previously worked at Vodacom, so it might be worth touching upon the kind of differences between obviously a big MNO, who are many of our customers today, and obviously your business, NetEngage.
Yeah, so, as I mentioned, my journey started off with Xlink Communications, which was then acquired in 2015 by Vodacom, of which Vodafone have a 67% shareholding. So having worked closely with my Vodafone compatriots around the world from an IoT perspective, having joined the IoT business within Vodafone in around about 2017, and then actually going back, James, to Xlink Communications, and then, assisting Vodacom with the build out of the next strategy. And then that's when I crossed paths with Lumen. And yes, I think, although based in Manchester, as we were all affected by the pandemic, everything's remote. So we all remote. I've got 3 engineers in Saudi Arabia looking after Saudi telecoms, one of our big clients. We then have 27 individuals spread across Manchester, and just myself and my CFO are in South Africa. So, that was pretty important, that we have the numbers with the CEO, and I can keep a close eye on what's happening in the business.
Very good. And obviously the time zones make it easy to stay in contact, so it works. So let's get into some of the business parts. And it feels like the market is in transition at the moment, certainly. So it would be good to understand from you what are the technologies kind of shaping the markets, the telco markets that you see at the moment.
Yeah, so I think, James, we just go back 6 months ago when OpenAI was mentioned. And all of a sudden, telco is all about AI. But I think we just need to take a step back. And one of my favorite authors or pioneers and visionaries is Peter Diamandis from Singularity University. And his quote, I'm just going to read it off here. The 6 Ds of technology disruption are a chain reaction of technological progression and a roadmap of rapid deployment that always leads to enormous upheaval and opportunity. And I think then goes on to simplify it by saying newly digitized products develop at an exponential pace instead of a linear one, fooling observers at first before going on to disrupt companies and whole industries. Before you know it, something that was once expensive and physical is an app that costs a buck. And that is so true. And this is the statement, I think, about 4 or 5 years old, but it's so true when one takes into consideration the telco environment. And we look at that digitization. So once something becomes digitized, it's far more accessible. So you'll remember, James, when everyone started talking about VMware, that was the hype. Then it went to cloud computing. And how long has cloud computing been around? It wasn't a one size fits all. First of all, for VMware, what was the use case? We then saw cloud computing come to the fore, but from a security perspective, especially in telcos, everything should be behind their firewall. So they weren't open to the idea with cloud computing, but they realized that digitization led to the VMware servers and therefore the elasticity, as an example. If we look at the disruption, so the existing market for products or service is disrupted by new market and and the exponential technology creates the digital technologies. So basically what they're saying is, if you take our products, online charging systems, which went from the physical voucher, back in the prepaid days, to being able to get a voucher anywhere, from your bank ATM, from a supermarket, your online USSD chats. I think that becomes important. We then look at demonetization. So again, they drive down the cost. Dematerialization, James, if we look at that, and a big one that we see on a daily basis is the requirement for eSIM. That's one of the big technological changes from the physical SIM, where you had to go to in-store, collect your SIM card potentially with your device, and if you want another replacement. And now with the introduction of eSIM, it's instantaneously done. On your smartphone, go to eSIM, get the MZ range, and off you go. Choose the network. So I think we're starting to see that. And then with democratization, so what I once used in the UK, I can now use in South Africa and vice versa. So
Fantastic.
I think, through the 6Ds, we're starting to see a lot more of the telcos embracing third-party software applications, comfortable to run applications and services on the cloud with the security that's now being built around those products and services. And then I think the ease of scaling any product and service, as opposed to hardware in racks and trying to configure the firewalls and cables, you can see all of this leads to that technological changes and disruption that we're seeing in the market.
Fantastic. So you're very much at the forefront of kind of innovation and driving new services for customers, which is why obviously GTC are very keen to work together with NetEngage. Could you touch upon kind of our core around messaging? Can you talk about the messaging kind of ecosystem and the state of that, and whether you think RCS is becoming mainstream now?
Yeah. So again, James, in my opinion, and I hope my product executive, Alan Catherall, appreciates and is satisfied with this nugget that I'm prepared to give you. Just in terms of the state of messaging today, as we know, it's evolving, becoming far more innovative. So just from a NetEngage perspective, if we look at the number of RFPs that we received in 2023, and I think, I'm speaking to GTC, that a lot of the RFPs potentially not to make the change, but to see what's out there, so that we see a lot of requests in terms of how we can build on legacy systems or replace existing solutions. And then with RCS itself, it's definitely on the rise. But again, it's been around for some time. We know that. And again, if you go back to the 6Ds, James, deceptive, it's been hanging around there. But now we're seeing it coming to the fore. And the reason for that is the rich features, again, the read receipts, the typing indicators, high quality media sharing, interactive elements, allow that to come to the forefront with a dynamic messaging experience compared to our traditional SMS, James, that we've seen. And again, for me, it's not when, it's when, not if more carriers and messaging platforms adopt the RCS technology. And we can see that widespread adoption taking place right now.
Yeah, and I'd certainly agree with that, and it's clearly been talked about for some time, but it's nice to actually see the scale coming to the service.
Yeah.
So shifting on to, obviously as GTC, we made the investment in the mobile identity space in terms of becoming one of the leading consulting businesses in that area. Can you talk a bit about kind of digital identity? You've touched upon digital there and how that's influencing the telco space.
So, yes, and I think once again, one of the areas, the digital identity that stands, there's quite a vast gap between what I see in South Africa and the UK, for example. Let's say acquiring a new SIM card. You don't need to show any identity in the UK for a SIM card. But in South Africa, we have a process called RECA, which is very much like the financial systems, where you have to identify yourself, and that's a copy of your ID, your postal address before you can activate a SIM. And I believe the digital identity is poised to play a crucial role in the telco space because of that interaction with the telco services and enhancing security and convenience. Again, allowing access to online services. James, just as I mentioned with eSIM, we want consumers to be able to consume via online channels. And I think with digital identity verification, that's become more important than ever. And then again, where do we see them leveraging, the digital identity? We've seen it firsthand in our platforms, onboarding, authentication, and the authorization process for other products or value-added services. So typically, if we're looking for personalized services, targeted marketing campaigns, and seamless cross-platform experiences for their customers. So it's definitely, from what we're seeing and what our customers want, it's easy access and for consumers to consume more of the value-added services that the telcos are delivering.
Fantastic. And it obviously ties in very neatly with your kind of core services and your established business. So, Hymie, thank you so much for talking us through, obviously, the business background, the trends, but also some of the new technologies that are coming through. At this point, it'd be great to understand kind of what motivates you, what are your interests, obviously in South Africa, but also further afield, and kind of what really kind of makes you want to kind of get up in the morning and get going.
So, James, I think you may have realized I love the deal chase, putting the deals together. Being in South Africa, we're quite far removed geographically. And that was one of the big challenges that I wanted, in terms of joining Lumen NetEngage, was to work with more international business partners, with my colleagues. Just to test ourselves. As you know, South Africa was the first country that had the prepaid service launched through Vodacom and MTN. I'm talking 24, 25 years ago. So again, we've been at the forefront, but it was getting that international exposure. Seeing from a technology perspective, my background is platforms, digital platforms, financial services. So having cut my teeth in 10 African countries, James, they always said to me, if you take, no disrespect to my colleagues in Nigeria, for example, Ghana, where we've been, those are tough markets to crack. And if you can crack it there, you can crack it anywhere. And we were very successful. And again, when you look at technology and just our customers in the telco space, today I wake up, the problem I face in AfriCell DRC, very different to what I face in STC. They are on a massive expansion of services. where we're hoping to get DRC into a VM environment, so from physical servers. So I think that's what wakes me up in the morning, those operational challenges, and really helping our customers, James, improve their average revenue per user. What we find, typically in Africa, $3 to $4, where in Europe, slightly higher. But it's now bringing those subscription services to our African telcos. So, for example, your next Netflix subscription, which you can now do through the NetEngage OCS, as an example, just to bring those services and again some of their digital transformation to the African continent.
Brilliant. And it's nice to hear you touch upon kind of ARPU. It reminds me of my time in Telefonica, because obviously you're speaking very much from their core and how they measure themselves. So, Hymie, you've got huge experience, and it's been great hearing from you in terms of like the evolution of your services, but how you see the market going. So, I'd just like to take this moment to say thank you for joining us on the interview. If there's anything else you want to add, by all means. If not, we'll close it there.
Thanks, James, and I appreciate the opportunity, and I hope the recordings come through.
Of course they will. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Hymie.
Thank you.
Take care.
Cheers. Thanks. Bye.